Knowledge begets a hunger for more.
Truth is not the end, but a beginning.
Change is coming to the world. Legends walked Thedas once.
Mythal clawed and crawled her way through the ages to me.
Their passing has left us all the lesser.
You will not have me, and you will not have my son.
I am Morrigan.
I am many things.
She who waits the next stage.
You seek to preserve the powers that were.
But I will not be the mother you were to me.
Welcome, patrons. As this week is Valentine's Day here in the States, I thought, what would be the best topic? Why not the most iconic, mysterious, and perhaps the best love interest in the DA series? But as I've already done a video on Solus, I settled on Morrigan. Now I will warn you, Morrigan has a lot of major life decisions up to the player, and I'll try to be going in chronological order, so we're going to weirdly jump between world states a lot. Also because at this time, his life is completely connected to his mother, I'll be going over a bit on Kieran as well. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about Morrigan. Witch of the Wilds. Before going into Morrigan herself, let's talk about what she is. The title of a Witch of the Wilds belongs to Flemeth and any woman who is believed to be her daughter. These daughters are all thought to be dangerous and powerful apostate shapeshifters. What Flemeth is another video on itself, but the important thing to note here is that her story dates back to Ferelden in the Towers Age, so about 600 years before the games are set. So the tales of the Witches of the Wilds are very old and based in Ferelden lore. Over the years, other witches have popped up in other nations. There are rumors of one in Orlais in Navarra, we know of one named Navana in Antiva, and Morrigan herself in the Kokari Wilds. We don't know how many Witches of the Wilds there are, and Morrigan herself has never met another one. I don't want to get too wrapped up in this, as in the end it's little more than a fancy title for the Daughters of Flemeth, but it has been used in stories and lore to help drive heroes further on their quest, sometimes at a terrible price. While some of these legends might be true, it's unknown how many actually are. Childhood. We aren't sure of Morrigan's parentage, although Morrigan herself doubts that Flemeth is her real mother. Because the Kokari Wilds are commonly the home of the chastened, it's believed that she is probably of chastened descent, with Morrigan either having a chastened father who was seized by Flemeth, as the old woman has a history of bragging of sexual conquests of chastened men, or Flemeth adopting her from a chastened tribe. And here I want to discuss a popular rumor. In the book The Stolen Throne, Merrick and Loghain end up going through the Kokari Wilds and meeting Flemeth, called Ashabel Anar in the book. In exchange for her help, she brings Merrick into her hut to make a deal. He had gone into her hut and remained there for hours, long enough that Loghain grew concerned. He had been trying to peer in through one filthy, grit-covered window when Merrick walked out of the door alone. The man seemed shaken and quiet and was resistant to even the most casual efforts Loghain made to inquire about what had gone on. So it was to remain a secret after all. So what happened in that hut? What did Flemeth want? For a while, the popular theory was that this was the night Morrigan was created. Except then, one, Morrigan and Alistair's night together gets very awkward, I'm going to say, to the point where I can't imagine the devs would actually do that. And two, that would make Morrigan about 35 when Dragon Age Origins begins. While we don't have her exact age hidden in the game files of Dragon Age Origins, it lists her as being in her mid to late 20s. Now, from this, I will say that these same files also list Alistair being much older than he actually is in-game, so it's likely the information is old and not correct, but I think we could all mostly agree that Morrigan is not 35 in Origins. And if neither of those two facts changes your mind about the theory, then I should say that you actually get to find out what the promise is in the comics, but that's for another day. So, anyway, Morrigan pops into Flemeth's life. She teaches Morrigan ancient magics and the way of the wilds. We have a few stories from Morrigan's childhood, how she would spy on nearby villages out of curiosity of other people, her fascination with wealth and pretty baubles, which was ultimately dissuaded by Flemeth. The first report of Morrigan comes from when she was around 12 years old, from World of Thedas Volume 2. The first reports of Morrigan began when a dark-haired young woman dressed in chastened garb and looking very out of place appeared in the village of Marinwood on the outskirts of the Kokari Wilds. Local villagers expected the young woman to be an apostate, and a week later Templars arrived from nearby Lothering to investigate, only to find her long gone. They entered the Kokari Wilds to search for her. For several days we found nothing, read one account. We were just about to call the search off, ready to dismiss the entire report as one more in a series of local legends about apostates haunting the woods, when I heard a voice chuckling from the tree above me. I looked and saw a girl in the branches. Dark hair, a wildling dressed like a chastened savage no more than 12 years of age. She grinned at me and said, "You do not belong here." I ignored the challenge and ordered her to come down in the name of Andraste and the Chantry. That made her laugh. "Your maker holds no sway in this forest, and you shall soon see." I demanded again that she come down. That was when she transformed into a blackbird and flew off, and the trees came to life. They uprooted from the very ground, lifting fully armored men up into the air with branches as vines as if they weighed nothing. Men screamed all around me and I ran. Morrigan herself mentions that this sort of thing happened fairly common. We even get to see something like this in the Penny arcade comics that were done quite some time ago. In the one called Witch Hunt, we see Templars finding the Witch of the Wilds and then both Morrigan and Flemeth killing them all. Interesting to note here is what Flemeth says to Morrigan, that she is proud in her daughter for killing the Templars and that she will do well for her purpose. Anyway, Morrigan was seen again around the year 920 Dragon, where she would appear in random villages, pick a person out, and begin to follow them and ask questions about their daily life, only returning to the wilds when she drew too much attention. But what I want to focus on is her relationship with her mother. This relationship isn't a happy one, to say the least, and it's so interesting to me because it touches on the reality of bad parents. The best way to describe this is through listening to what Morrigan actually says.
Is my being upset so hard to understand? Have you never lost someone important to you? Just what would you do if your mother died?
Before or after I stopped laughing. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless. Nothing. I wish to know nothing more. You are as much my mother as my little finger right here is the Queen of Ferelden. I know you, Fade Spirit. You cannot fool me.
Are you more clever than your own dear mother? Surely such pride must be punished. There! That is for not showing respect.
That is far more like it. No son of mine would be raised in a marsh, bereft of contact with the outside world. He is just a boy inquisitor. If he is remarkable, that is his father's doing, and not mine. Wait!
Being slapped as punishment is more like mother. She gets flustered when you openly and easily say that you love your mother. She believes that she is going to scar Kieran and that any goodness is him is from his father. But while she jokes about not caring about her mother, she still calls out to her for closure. Morrigan is a woman who has spent her life with Flemeth, a being who is so caught up in her own plot for vengeance. And while we are not exactly sure what Flemeth plans for Morrigan, the fact that she has one for her is enough. Flemeth is using her daughters. Morrigan knows this and was deeply hurt by it. While she may not have been able to express it until either your warden or Kieran or perhaps neither, Morrigan has never truly known unconditional love and the comfort that brings, and that has affected her. Dragon Age Origins. For the most part, if you have played Dragon Age Origins, you know what happens here. The Warden meets Morrigan in the wilds, Flemeth forces her to join the Traveling Wardens, Morrigan stays in the background giving snarky remarks. In Your Time in Lothering, World of Thaves Volume 2 gives a little more information. It details a young girl going up to Morrigan and complimenting the feathers on her shoulder. Morrigan ends up giving the girl one of the feathers and wishing her well in the upcoming blight. Morrigan will see you as a means to an end, unless you gain her approval. If playing a female warden or you did not romance her, she will begin to see the warden as a friend and even as a sibling. If playing a male warden and you choose to romance her, things start out with a bang, with Morrigan being quick to start a no-strings-attached sexual relationship. Things can progress far enough that Morrigan realizes that she has grown attached. She denies it at first, although still gives the warden a ring that connects the two so that she may always find him. Her own emotions start to be too much for her, and after a certain point in the game, will actually reject any offers to sleep with the warden. She does this because love to her is a weakness, and that scares her. At one point, Morrigan finds out Flemeth's purpose for her. Morrigan read in Flemeth's grimoire that she has lived so long because she's possessing the bodies of her daughters. While Morrigan is convinced and she asks you to kill her mother, Flemeth seems to know that whatever Morrigan has figured out is wrong. You can choose to either let Flemeth go or kill her, but either way, Flemeth comes back and Morrigan knows it. Eventually, at the very end of the game, your warden finds out that they must die to defeat the Blight. Here is where I'm going to slip in a little-known comic written by David Gator and drawn by Imo, an artist that is well known for their DA-related fan art and someone you might have actually seen around Tumblr or other places online. The comic was actually sponsored by BioWare and was posted to their blog. It's called The Revelation, and it's a bit hard to find because the link on said blog no longer works. The basic plot is that it's a confrontation between Alistair and Morrigan, and it deals with Morrigan's struggles and fears about the ritual she was to do. I had to do a lot of digging to actually find the comic myself, so I linked it in the description of the video along with the original blog post and links to IMO's various social media links so you can look up their beautiful art. Anyway, going back to Endgame, Morrigan meets up with you to declare that she knew the Warden must die to defeat the Archdemon, and that this is why Flemeth wanted her to come along, so that she might have a child from one of the Wardens. This child would act like a beacon to the soul of the old god. Letting Morrigan have the soul for herself, the child would be unharmed and innocent, and the Warden gets to live through the final fight. Your Warden either sleeps with Morrigan or forces Alistair or Lagaine to do so, and then they all survive the battle, or you deny the ritual and one of them dies. No matter what you choose, Morrigan leaves without saying goodbye. If the Romance Warden obtained the ring, this is said during the epilogue. The ring that Morrigan gave the Warden remained in his possession. She had once claimed that it formed a connection between the two, and there came a night when he was sure she was thinking of him. Somewhere. She felt regret and sorrow, but the ring told no more. Eventually, 2 years after the events of Dragon Age Origins, the Warden goes hunting for Morrigan. If your Warden died in Origins, the new Orlesian Warden Commander of Ferelden is given directions from the first Warden to find details on Morrigan. The Wardens have questions about her role in the Fifth Blight, although what those questions are unknown even to the Warden Commander. During this time as well, both Templars and the Crown are searching for Morrigan, believing her to be a dangerous apostate. How you track her down isn't important to this video, but the basic story is that she stole a book from a clan of Dalish elves that is about Alluvians, and in the end, you find her in front of one. The exact confrontation depends on your relationship, and I'll mention what she talks about later, but I can say that what she says has yet to be explained in full. Your Warden can either not even go after her at all, go after her and let her leave on her own, go with her if romance, or stab her, in which she falls to the Alluvian anyway and obviously survives into Inquisition. If the Warden did not go through the Alluvian with Morrigan, she tells him that there is something in the Dalish book the Warden will find interesting. What that is, we are not sure, although a popular theory is that it is what started the Warden's quest for the cure of the calling. The in-between. There are 10 years between Origins and Inquisition, so what on earth has Morrigan been doing in this time? Honestly, this is kept fairly vague, as the devs seem to want to give the players wiggle room to headcanon what they want about a romanced Morrigan. If romance, she mentions that the Warden lived with her and helped her raise Kieran before going off in search for the calling so that he may be with his family just a little bit longer. It also suggested that they are married. Morrigan also mentions that for a time she raised Kieran somewhere in the Crossroads that she was able to keep safe from Flemeth there. Even in Origins, it lets us know that she left to Orlais, and she has eventually worked her way up into the Empress's court. In World of Thedas Volume 2, it states that Empress Celine likely had Morrigan in her employ for a while, but only officially announced her presence after the explosion of the Kirkwall Chantry. From an account of her first appearance in court. She strode into the court like she was the Empress herself, I swear. And what she wore, a dress all in black and dark purple when the fashions of the seasons demanded one in white and pale blue. She had no mask at all, like a peasant or a priest, and wore less jewelry than my handmaiden. It was as if she mocked our conventions just by entering the room without saying a word. Some people gasped in shock like they would if someone brought a horse into the ballroom floor, and we were all silent as she walked by us. Alone, mind you, with nary a servant on hand, and went up to the Empress's throne, without being announced, like they were familiar. I remember the witch passing right by me, suppressing a smirk as if this were all some mirthful jest. And perhaps it was to her. I will say that, scandalized as we all profess to be, almost half the gowns were dark, if not black, at the very next Imperial Ball. Because of Morrigan's reputation, there were many rumors around her and Celine, mostly that Morrigan had enchanted the Empress and was using her. Perhaps because of this, Morrigan spent much of her time away from the palace doing who knows what. She returned every few months, coming to the Imperial Palace in the middle of the night without a single guard noticing her, said one elven servant of the court. Each time she had some new bauble that the Empress wanted. They looked strange, these things. Sometimes they glowed and seemed wicked. One time she brought up what looked like a mirror coated in rust and mud as if it had been dredged up from the bottom of a swamp. Perhaps it had. How the witch spirited that in past the guards, I have no idea. All I remember is that Empress Celine was delighted to see it. The way her eyes lit up when she saw it, you have no idea. She ordered me out immediately while the witch stood there and smiled. I wish I could have stayed. I was desperate to know what it was all about, as the Empress surely was to have the witch explain it to her. Although, ultimately, the rumors are just that. Rumors. As known that Morrigan and Celine argued a lot about things, which would upset the Empress, who would ignore her for months, but eventually coming back for more questions about magic. If Morrigan has a son, she describes that she takes great pains to make sure that no one knows that she is related to him, and that he come across as just a mild-mannered and well-spoken lad. There is little else known about this time except for a small tidbit in the last court. So the game is unique in that it doesn't actually use names, but rather titles to identify people. So with that in mind, a scornful sorceress makes way into Serault. The vague plot of Last Court is unimportant, but the point is you are a marquis who is in charge of Serault, a small Arlesian town known for its glassmaking. This scornful sorceress brings a strange mirror and a cart, and you are given the choice to let her use your equipment to repair the mirror. No matter the answer, she does so anyway, and it's likely that this is the same alluvian that she brings with her to Skyhold. At this time, she also takes an interest in the shame of Serault. Who that is again for another video, but the TLDR is that he was the person who bounded Corypheus in blood magic lock before Malcolm Hawke. Which brings up the question, did she know about Corypheus? This is well before the destruction of Haven or even the explosion of the Conclave. Perhaps she got this information from the Empress, but the timing is curious. Dragon Age Inquisition. About midway through the game, we see Morrigan where she has been all these last few years, the Empress's court. Which, fun facts, the dress that she is wearing is similar to the one Liliana describes in Origins.
Maybe we could get you in a nice dress one day. Silk. No, maybe velvet. Velvet is heavier, better to guard against the cold in Ferelden. Dark red velvet. Yes. With gold embroidery. It should be cut low in the front, of course. We don't want to hide your features.
Stop looking at my breasts like that. 'Tis most disturbing.
You don't think so? And if it's cut low in the front, we must put your hair up. Show off that lovely neck.
Morrigan joins the Inquisition innocently enough, either by appointment from the Empress or politely kicked out by Gaspard. While she declines to actually fight in most of the Inquisition's battles, she does offer knowledge. She takes the Inquisitor through the alluvian to the Crossroads, a place in between similar to both the Fade and the real world. Her best guess is that Corypheus' next plan is to get into this place, as if he were able to break down the walls of the Crossroads, he may be able to break into the Fade. She ends up being wrong, and that what he actually wanted was the Well of Power in the Temple of Mythal, although the alluvian she thought he wanted was there. What this well is has yet to be described in detail, but Morrigan makes a case that she wants to drink of it, to take all the power of the well and the curse it provides. Because with her knowledge of history, she'll be able to best make sense of it. While this choice is up to the Inquisitor, Morrigan is able to drink of it. And here we have to split up into 4 different world states. No old god baby Inquisitor drank from the well. With the normal or non-existent Kieran, the Whispers of the Well tell the player to meet at the Shrine of Mythal. While there you meet up with Flemeth, who reveals herself to be housing a piece of Mythal. The Inquisitor must then defeat a guardian dragon who in return helps with the final battle with Corypheus. No old god baby, Morrigan drank from the well. Same as before, except Flemeth teaches Morrigan how to transform into a dragon and there is no battle with any guardian. Old god baby and Morrigan drinks from the well. The Inquisitor finds Liliana, who tells the Inquisitor that Morrigan ran into the alluvian she brought. Once you go through, you are brought into the Fade itself, something that Morrigan remarks is something that Kieran did and would require incredible power. She asks you to help find Kieran, who ran off into the Fade, and the two of you eventually find him and Flemeth during some sort of process. Again, Flemeth reveals she houses Mythal, and she gives Morrigan a deal.
Hear my proposal, dear girl. Let me take the lad, and you are free of me forever. I will never interfere with or harm you again. Or keep the lad with you, and you will never be safe from me. I will have my due.
Morrigan, without hesitation, chooses to let Kieran go free, which seems to surprise Flemeth. Before she leaves, Flemeth teaches Morrigan how to become a dragon, and she takes the soul of the old god from Kieran, which presumably makes him normal. Old god baby Inquisitor drank from the well. Practically the same as above, but now the Inquisitor has to still go to the Shrine of Mythal and defeat the Dragon Guardian. If Morrigan is able to become a dragon, Morrigan is wounded at the Battle of Corypheus, but survives the final fight, and then she leaves Skyhold soon after to places unknown. The weird stuff. Now, many of you who are die-hard Morrigan fans are probably thinking, what about this or that thing? You missed all of it! Here's probably those bits. Kieran, Technically, there are 2 Kierans, one happy normal child, and one with the soul of an old god. He says some interesting things depending on your Inquisitor's race, so let's quickly have a montage of everything he says to the Inquisitor for both world states. Also, fun facts, when listening to this, Kieran is voiced by Odin Black, the son of Morrigan's voice actor Claudia Black, so I guess the raspy voice runs in the family.
You're the Inquisitor. Mother never told me the Inquisitor was an elf.
That's not such a terrible thing, is it?
No, I just don't know why your people want to look like that. No, I think elves are pretty.
The ears gave me away, didn't they?
No, your blood is very old. I saw it right away. Yes, they're very large.
And just who is your mother?
Mother is the inheritor. She who awaits the next stage. She's the Witch of the Wilds. You're very tall. Mother didn't say you were a canary.
That's not such a terrible thing, is it?
No, I just feel bad about what happened to your people. I guess not. You just have really scary horns.
Oh? I'm told it's the first thing one notices about me.
I noticed your blood. It doesn't belong to your people. Mother notices strange things about everyone. You're very short. Mother didn't say you were a dwarf.
That's not such a terrible thing, is it?
No, it would be worse. If you couldn't touch magic at all. Like being blind. No, magic isn't so scary like everyone thinks.
You caught me, and I was trying so hard to be taller.
But you can't be taller. Not without the Titans. I know how you feel. I thought you'd be scarier. Mother said you were scary.
Why would your mother say such a thing?
I don't know. You seem nice for someone who kills a lot.
Some people seem to think I'm the most frightening thing in the world.
Those people haven't met you, have they?
Also, it's a long story, but the short version is I am missing a couple save files, so I'm just going to have to read out what Kieran says. If you have a human, non-mage Inquisitor with an old god baby Kieran, when the Inquisitor asks why they are scary, because people fear the next age if it comes too soon. When the Inquisitor says that they're the most frightened thing in the world, Kieran says, Mother says they would think the same about me if they knew. If you're playing a human mage Inquisitor, the Inquisitor will say, if you can sense magic, don't ever become a Templar. Kieran will then respond with, if an old god baby, I can't, the Lyrian gives me terrible nightmares. If normal, he says, I don't think Mother would like that much. There is just so much to unpack here. His mentions of the Titans is the first in the series. What is Morrigan inheriting? What happened to the Canary? How did elves choose what to look like? I know many of you look to me for answers now, but at this time I really don't have that many. The eyes. It's a bit harder to tell in the Dragon Age Origins era graphics, but Morrigan has a very unique feature. Yellow eyes. It was thought that this feature was something that belonged to the Witches of the Wilds, as Yavanna and Flemeth both have them. Then, in Dragon Age Inquisition, along came Abelas. Even before the Mythal Flemeth reveal, which was hinted at in Origins as her true grimoire has the leafless tree on it, here is a small hint about it that you probably missed in his eyes. So while we don't know why yellow eyes are significant, it looks like they are somehow connected to Mythal in a way. Her purpose. When Morrigan calls out Flemeth on possessing her daughters in Inquisition, Flemeth says this.
A soul is not forced upon the unwilling, Morrigan. You were never in danger from me.
This brings to question what Morrigan read, but also what Flemeth's purpose for Morrigan actually is. Yavanna mentions that Morrigan is a fool and misunderstands the gift she is intended for. In-game and through other media, we don't know what it is, but we do get a hint in the game notes of Inquisition talking about the epilogue and the spirit of Mythal inside of her. She intends to let him have the power so long as she can pass the essence of her godhood onto Morrigan, a gift Flemeth had always planned for her daughter, yet one Morrigan misunderstood as hostile possession. So it seems that Morrigan's destiny is to become the next carrier of Mythal, or whatever this essence of godhood is. This is most likely what she is going to inherit. The Saga of Trita Brightaxe. This has probably been one of the most requested video topics, and honestly, I've sort of been avoiding it because I'm just trash at dissecting poetry, guys. But in the saga of Trid of Bright Axe, it mentions someone named Morrigan. Now, in my opinion, there is no way this isn't related to Morrigan. The question is how. First, who is Morrigan? She is an Avar chieftain who is a half-dwarven woman. Now, the poem itself isn't the only source of information on her. The Ash Warriors and Ostagar mention her as well. The basic plot that they say is that she seduced another chieftain and had a son from him. The two tribes warred for years, and eventually the son and father meet on battlefield unknowingly. The father kills the son, and Morrigan curses him and kills him. So, what does this have to do with Trid of Bright Axe? Morrigan is her daughter, and she was instructed to have her by her lover, an elf with connections to the Lady of the Skies. And then what does this have to do with Morrigan? I'm not sure. There are theories that the Avar gods are the same as the Elven gods and that the Lady of the Skies could be Mythal. There are other theories that this is where the Witch of the Wilds line began, as this is well before Flemeth's time. But it is interesting how similar of a name the two have and that possibly both had a son. Mystery. Morrigan is very mysterious, but I don't think she really wants to be. Throughout the series, she has popped out strange lines here and there, and really so far none of them have really been explained yet, and I wonder how much Morrigan herself knows. And that, dear patrons, is all that we know on Morrigan and Kieran. I also want to give a huge shout out to Reddit user SwissFamilyRonminson, who speedran three non-Old God Kieran Dragon Age Inquisition runs just for me for this video. Which, guys, he did this in about 2.5 hours per save file, and that's crazy fast. I actually had to do one on my own for this human because I thought I had one and I didn't, and it took me a lot longer. So thank you so much for that, and honestly, it just saved me a whole bunch of time. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at Gildathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. Dara Sharal.